Welcome to the Burn City Suns Talk Post Game Show, brought to you by Burn City Sports. I'm Damian Adams here with Brendan Mao, and we have a special guest with us today from Clutch Points, Trevor Booth, and we're here to talk about the Suns' first loss of the season as they fell short to the LA Lakers, 100-95. And just to let you guys know what happened during this game, first quarter, the Lakers come out real quick, 7-0 run, and then the Suns take control, and they're able to really take control of that first quarter and go up 30-18 into the second quarter. Second quarter, Kevin Durant sits. The Lakers take full advantage of those minutes, get back into the game. They're only down by 4 going into halftime. In the third quarter, Kevin Durant gets back to being Kevin Durant and does what he does, and the Suns go up by 12 going into the fourth quarter. Unfortunately for the Suns, NBA games are 4 quarters and not 3. And in the fourth quarter, the Lakers really took full control of the game, outscoring the Suns in that fourth quarter 28-11. And out of those 11 points, Kevin Durant scored 9, and 2 were scored by Jordan Goodwin on kind of a throwaway layup towards the end of the game there. So 100-95 was the win for the LA Lakers over the Suns. The top player for the Suns, of course, was Kevin Durant with his 39 points. But LeBron James, Anthony Davis took control in the fourth quarter. LeBron James playing the entire fourth quarter for the LA Lakers. So let's get into our thoughts about this game. Let's start with you, Brennan. What were your thoughts about this entire game, seeing what happened to the Suns throughout this game and going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah, it was a very up and down game. I mean, more ups and then just went crashing down. So it was a very tough end of the game there for the Suns. But yeah, I mean, me and you talked about this yesterday, Damian, on our podcast, which you can go check out on our YouTube channel. It's like we knew that Kevin Durant had to have like 35 points for the Suns to win tonight, and he gave them that. But in the end, he just ended up being their whole offense, which I thought would be the case the whole entire game, but it really showed in that fourth quarter that the lack of playmaking they had. So that really just ended whatever the Suns had going for them. So it was a really tough end of the game for the Suns after what was a really good start. So.
No, for sure. Trevor, let me get you in here, man. And you got to unmute yourself there. So let me get you in here on your thoughts as what happened in the fourth quarter to the Suns. Do you think it was just a lack of playmaking, just a lack of threats out there on the floor? What did the Lakers do so well against the Suns in that fourth quarter? Oh, sound like you're underwater, Trevor.
We can't hear you.
So sorry for hold on one second. Then a little technical difficulty there with Trevor. Hopefully you can get him back here. Sound like he was down there with the Titanic just now. So we're gonna get him back above sea level here in just a second. So Brendan, you mentioned how this was an up and down game. Seems like it just went as Kevin Durant went out the game. That's when the Suns offense went out the game. What else did you notice during those non-Kevin Durant minutes that really hurt them?
Yeah, I mean, the Suns just I thought the whole game they should have had Kevin Durant on the floor the same time that LeBron was on the floor. But that did not end up happening. And you saw whenever that really hurt them there in the fourth quarter. Those non Kevin Durant, LeBron James minutes really came back to bite them because the Lakers got rolling, which they had all game with LeBron on the floor. And then it just really came back to hurt them when they got rolling there in the fourth quarter because the Suns had no momentum at that point, and it really just ended up costing them the game. So it was a really tough fourth quarter for them.
Yeah, and it definitely was a really tough fourth quarter. Trevor, let's see if we can get you up to sea level now here. What were your thoughts about that fourth quarter for the Suns? Nah, you still sound like you're under sea level there. So we're gonna hopefully get you above the water here in a second. But my thoughts about this up and down game, it definitely shows we know the value of Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, right? We know that they're all-star caliber players and how much they mean to the team scoring wise, but also playmaking wise. And we talked about it there in the fourth quarter, or just yesterday in that game on Tuesday, excuse me, talked about in the podcast yesterday. The game was on Tuesday. We talked about how important Devin Booker was as a playmaker in the fourth quarter of that first game, especially those last three possessions where he had those back-to-back clutch assists to help the Suns go ahead. In this fourth quarter, seems like they had no one to get those clutch assists for them. And also outside of the lack of playmaking, just a lack of threats out there, because the depth that we saw in the preseason, that we thought, okay, maybe this team is deeper than we thought. Maybe that was fool's gold in the preseason. Maybe this team isn't as deep as we thought they were, because outside of Kevin Durant today, you had Eric Gordon, who dropped some points, but he wasn't efficient again in this one. Grayson Allen was okay in this game. He hit a couple threes, but he still wasn't like a major factor. The only person who showed up, or I shouldn't say the only person, but the person who showed the most was Jordan Goodwin. Of course, Josh Okogie was good, had some hustle plays in this one, but it seemed like it was really a one-man show out there. And without that one man, they couldn't do anything offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jordan Goodwin, like I said before, I wrote an article that he should have started tonight, and he really showed that at the beginning of the game. But then as the game went on, he was really struggling with a shot.
Yeah.
But you can't ask him to shoot the ball like that. Like that's not his role on this team, and it won't be his role on the team when they're not missing Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. So it just seemed like because he had the ball in his hands, because he was the point guard, no one else was doing anything. He just wanted to take some shots. So you see his stats here. Let me pull them up real quick. He's 6 of 15. I think he started the game like 4 of 6, something in that range. So the last part of that game was really tough for him. So I just think when you have Goodwin really struggling, and it's not really like he should not be in that role where he needs the offense to be run through him. It should be Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, but that's just what the reality that they were facing tonight, and that's what hurt them down the stretch. So it was really tough end of the game there.
Yeah, like you said, you definitely don't want him taking 15 shots. That's not his type of role. He's there to bring energy, play defense. He's a master of the wait for you to spin and come down and try to steal the ball from you as you spin move. He did it to Anthony Davis, but it was a foul that was called him on that one. But he's a master of that on defense. And you want him to stick to that role of being the rebounder, good defender. I love how when he came into the game, he was picking up D'Angelo Russell full court, making him really work down the court. So he did his job, but then he was asked to do too much and couldn't live up to that. So Kevin Durant, man, amazing game from him. 39 points, went 14 of 28 from the field, 11 rebounds. You see here 2 assists, but 8 turnovers. In the 8 turnovers, some of them weren't his fault. If you were listening to the game, you heard Reggie Miller say, like, why are they not spread out like they're supposed to be? There was a few times where he passed it to the corner and no one was there. Nas a little, kind of dove in where there was nothing there really open. And he dove in, and Kevin Durant passed it over him. And there was another one where someone wasn't in the corner when they were supposed to be, and he thought somebody was going to be there when he passed the ball. But it's hard to blame him for those 8 turnovers when he was the only one out there that was a threat for most of the game. And then there was points where in that fourth quarter where they were loading up so much on him that they were kind of sitting on the open pass that was going to be next. The still that LeBron James got where he got fouled, but then they reversed the call because he lost the ball going out of bounds on the fast break. That's still to happen before that. They loaded up on KD. Nurkic rolled to the rim, and you saw LeBron, hiding kind of behind Nurkic. And as soon as KD passed the ball, he just jumped in front of him and stole the ball. So they really did a great job of setting traps for Kevin Durant to get those turnovers. And some of the other turnovers were just miscommunications on the offense. But KD did everything he could in this game. Just wasn't enough because he didn't have enough help.
Yeah, and when you look at the final stats, the Suns had 20 turnovers to 16 assists, which they're not going to have that when Devin Booker's on the floor. It's just a tough reality of this team. The one thing that they did do well, which I didn't know, I know Trevor, if he was in here, he's talked about this as well, that the rebounding for the Suns, like who are they going to get contributions from in that area? It's been huge for them, and they out-rebounded the Lakers 49-42 tonight. You saw Yusuf Uh, he had like 7 rebounds in the first quarter, so he
Yeah.
ended the game with 9. It was just after that first quarter, it was a rough go for Yusuf. And me and you talked about it yesterday. We kind of expected this going in because of how he played against AD prior in the preseason, but I didn't expect after that first quarter that it would be a drastic drop off. But it just felt like he could get any rhythm going because of that foul trouble. Second straight game, he has 5 fouls. So Suns need to figure out a solution there in terms of foul trouble for Yusuf.
Oh, for sure. And it came into play in a major way in that fourth quarter where he came out because he had 5 fouls, and the Lakers took advantage of that size advantage that they had immediately, where you saw Anthony Davis get offensive rebound. Then there was a big play where they kind of came down fast in transition, and Anthony Davis ended up with Eric Gordon on his back. That's an easy and one for Anthony Davis because KD was playing essentially the center position during those couple of minutes where they were trying to just hold out for Nurkic to not foul out. So Nurkic has to stay out of foul trouble so they don't find themselves in that position where they have KD at the 5. I don't know if Frank Vogel just didn't trust Eubanks at that moment. Eubanks didn't have the best game tonight either. So I don't know if he just didn't trust him to put him in for those couple of minutes, but he went with KD at the 5, and it did cost them there in those few minutes where the Lakers took full advantage of their size.
Yeah, and it's just like they need I don't know what the solution is there, because you have Bol and Udoka Azubuike are the two next guys. I thought maybe they should have tried Chimezi Metu tonight, but
Yeah.
would you want to throw him in there in the fourth quarter? I think that's the problem they ran into. So I think they got to experiment some things with Chimezi Metu. No minutes in the first 2 games after he had a really good preseason is kind of tough for him. So I think where do the Suns go from in terms of their rotation here? Because and my prediction for this game for the rotation was they would change it up. I thought they should change it up a little bit, but they really just stayed consistent with what everyone thought. Just Nasir Little was the next man up. They stayed with a 9-man rotation. I mean, Nasir played like 3 minutes last game, so that doesn't really count. It was just a 9-man rotation, just Nasir stepping in there, and then Eric Gordon getting the start instead of Devin Booker. So I think they need to look at some different things in the rotation to try to get a feel for it. But at the same time, you're not going to have most games where you don't have at least 2 of the big 3 out there. So that's really another tough aspect. But I just don't think that Frank Vogel and the rest of the Suns should be like, okay, this is our rotation for the rest of the year. They need to try some other things out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he will try some different things out. In our podcast, I talked about how maybe they should have tried Keita Bates Diop, tonight because of his size and length. Maybe he could have been somebody who really helped out on defense, especially once LeBron got going in that fourth quarter. It's like, ooh, who's going to stop this guy once he's into that rhythm and really it's going downhill? Maybe Bates Diop could have been that guy to slow him down with his length. I thought that's something they could have tried tonight. But I think he will try different things as the season goes along. But speaking of people who got moved up in the rotation, Eric Gordon got moved into the starting lineup tonight, like you mentioned, and didn't have the best night offensively. Again, inefficient, 6 of 16, 15 points, 2 rebounds, and minus 27.
Yeah,
And
worse than the team by far.
yeah, that's when you lose by 5 points and you're a minus 27. That's nasty. That's really nasty. That really shows, your lack of impact on the game or your impact in a negative direction during the game. And Eric Gordon, somebody I still believe in. He was my pick for 6 man of the year. Definitely not looking good through the first 2 games for my pick there, but he's somebody who has to be aggressive when he's out there. But when you have him out there as the point guard, quote unquote, and he's not a guy who's used to looking for open passes to make for assists and to get teammates involved, you really saw the impact of that in those 9 Kevin Durant minutes.
Yeah, it's just like they need. It's clear they need another ball handler, but I mean, do they play? Do they build the rotation like Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are gonna only play like a combined 80 games together? Is that how it's gonna work? I mean, not together, just like Devin Booker 40 games, Bradley Beal 40 games. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know what they do. I don't think like these injuries don't seem to be something that they're going to worry about, these specific injuries. But I mean, Bradley Beal, I think, is the biggest question mark just because of his history the past couple years in terms of
Yeah.
injuries and I mean lower back tightness. Like, um, I don't know how much longer he's out, but I mean, if he's out for a few more games, that's kind of concerning to me. But hopefully, it's just them getting them healthy right now, making sure they're good, not putting too much pressure on them early in the season. So can be a good thing. But yeah, they definitely need ball handlers out there. I mean, at one point you saw Nasir Little. He did okay today. He was. I was like, why is Nasir Little the point guard out there? Like, they really have no other options. There was just a weird like in terms of playmaking. Like, why is this guy bringing the ball up the court? I mean,
Yeah.
you could say they call Nurkic a point guard sometimes, but you can't be bringing the ball up every time as a
Yeah,
center.
Nurkic, Nurkic is a point guard in the same way, that Joker can be a point guard at times where you run the offense through him at the high post, but you definitely don't want Nurkic, being the one doing crossovers and whatnot, trying to get up the court. You definitely don't want that happening. So yeah, Nas Little, it was a weird, fit for him today. He didn't hit his jump shots when he had the opportunity, but you're not gonna hit your jump shots every night. And like you mentioned earlier, I just think that they have to try something different, especially if Bill and Booker are going to miss more games. We got a report during the game from the sideline reporter that Booker wanted to play, like he fought to play tonight, but they decided to be on the cautious side and set him out and do an MRI. So hopefully the results of MRI are negative, where there's no type of injuries or no type of ligament damage for his foot. And if that's the case, hopefully we see him on Saturday against the Jazz.
Yeah, it was like Jared Greenberg reported before the game. I wrote a story
Yeah.
on his report that Devin Booker. He heard from sources within the team that Devin Booker was targeting like Tuesday as a return date, and then he goes on and says that Devin Booker's hoping to play Saturday, but it all depends on his MRI. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It just I don't really get what his injury is now because he jammed his big left toe was the original injury, and then today Frank Vogel said in his pregame presser that like he had some swelling on his foot. So I don't know if that's the same injury or is it like just because he's jumping weird because his toe is hurt. That would not be a good thing if that
Yeah.
was the case. But yeah, it's a tough situation there for both Booker and Beal with them dealing with injuries in the first
Yeah.
two games of the year.
No, for sure. You definitely don't want to see this, especially with the concerns, like you said, with Bradley Bill, who's missed a lot of games over the last 3 years. You definitely don't want to see that. Booker's been mostly healthy for his career. Last year, missed 29 games, if I remember correctly. You do it. His stuff's been more lingering, like hamstring stuff like that he's been dealing with, instead of stuff like this, where it's a foot issue, which is always scary for basketball players when you talk about foot issues. Normally, it's for bigger guys when they have the foot issues. Like Kevin Durant had a foot issue earlier in his career that made him miss a lot of games, but with KD or with Booker, excuse me, you talked about how it may be like an overcompensation thing where he had the toe issue and then maybe he's trying to avoid landing on his toes and then that will cause the foot injury. So hopefully it's not a thing that lingers on. We'll just have to wait and see. We hate to see them not play, but we would rather see them healthy in April going into May and June for the playoffs. So the Suns are doing the right thing by being cautious and making sure that they are healthy, but they do have to be healthy because if they're missing a bunch of games, that's going to really affect their playoff positioning, which could cost them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know what they do. I mean, we talked about it going here. That's been a talk from everybody is how can they stay healthy? So are they gonna? Is this the roster they want around them if they're not gonna be healthy? I mean, they almost got a victory tonight without two playmakers, like we said, two
Yeah,
their stars that are playmakers. So I think when you look at some other guys just going down, I think Yuta did not have a good night tonight.
yeah,
He was minus minus 14, which was second lowest on the team behind Eric Gordon's abysmal minus 27. But he had that one triple that he banked in. um,
Yeah,
I just thought like Yuta, like if you read my article before the game, I thought like it could be either him or Eric Gordon starting, because they didn't really. In my opinion, Jordan Goodwin should have started. So in that case, you don't need another ball handler. You can have someone that spaces the floor like Yuta. But ultimately, I thought it should be Eric Gordon just because of what you saw tonight from him, especially early in the game. Him just being aggressive, driving, opening up a lot of things on the offensive end, kind of being that perfect replacement for Beal. Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, minus the playmaking aspect, just because he likes to have the ball in his hands and likes to score with it. But in the end, that cost him again. I mean, two bad nights from him and Grayson Allen. These stats aren't too bad from Grayson. I mean, I put the zero turnovers on here on purpose because that was a problem in the preseason. So you
yeah,
see him doing it all tonight. I mean, you need more scoring from him though, especially if he's going to start the game. So I think they need to figure out that role. It looked like Grayson had such a concrete role on this team going into the year, and then now that it's the season started, it's like, Grayson, what are you doing out there? I mean, I think he's doing a
yeah.
good job defensively. That's the one thing, one area where he's been good, but just offensively, it's like he's not really helping the team out there. Yeah, he was -2 tonight, so I know plus minus doesn't say anything, but for some of the guys it does, but not for Grayson. I mean, I just say that because Grayson had some really high plus minus games in the preseason, and you saw his impact out there.
Yeah, like sometimes you just forgot Allen was out there tonight. He, like I said, hit a couple of threes, but his impact was very minimal, and he needs to be more aggressive. And honestly, during the preseason, there was times where he was the guy who handled the ball and ran the pick and roll. Why not do that sometimes now and have, KD as one of the options or one of the outlets? So if you have Grayson Allen, let's say the top of the key running the pick and roll with Yusef Nurkic, and you have a Kogi who's been hitting his shots and Kevin Durant hitting his shots on either side, you're able to space the floor, and whoever's guarding Kevin Durant can't leave him. So that makes it easier for other guys to run the pick and roll. And I think that's something that they were missing today, is somebody else to run the pick and roll and to maybe have KD take a few plays off while he's out there, to be able to just be an outlet. They just didn't have that today. I do think that Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen have to take on that role, especially in games where Bradley Beal and Devin Booker aren't there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to figure out. I mean, I watched LeBron James post game. He's like, "We have a lot to figure out because we have new pieces, and the Suns have a lot to figure out." So just
Yeah.
take it from LeBron James what the Suns need. They're here's LeBron stats while we're talking about him tonight. I mean, he almost had a triple double. And I think he had like almost an identical stat line against the Nuggets as well. So you just saw him plus 22 tonight, the highest out of anybody.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, Christian Wood was the highest actually at plus 23. But him and KD, like I said, they should have been on the floor together because KD was plus 18 in the game that the Suns lost by 5 points. So I just think that was a tough overall game for the Suns. Um, after I thought they had this one, but it didn't end up working out for them. So just overall, like you want to like we said after the first game, you want a game where you win, and there's a lot to take away from it. But this time you lost, and there's honestly not much you could take away from it other than Devin Booker and Bradley Beal didn't play, and the other guys didn't know what they were doing. So
Yeah, no, there definitely was some times where it felt like, okay, this is the second game of the year. They're going to have some miscommunications. They're going to have some times where guys aren't in the right place. And like I mentioned earlier, you saw that where Kevin Durant had a few turnovers where guys weren't in the corner like he thought they were going to be. So that's just, some of the bumps and bruises that you go through throughout the season. That's going to happen, especially in games where you're missing two of your three best players. And you mentioned how KD should have been out there for all of the LeBron minutes. The thing is, KD still finished with 39 minutes played. So he was out there for a long time. And he just, didn't play the entire fourth quarter like LeBron did. And it seemed like LeBron, told Darvin Ham, like, hey, I'm staying in because it seems like we can't do anything without me out here. So I'm going to stay out here to make sure you win this game. And that's what happened. Anthony Davis played good, but his plus minus prior to those last 12 minutes wasn't good. It's weird because Anthony Davis should be good enough to where you can put the ball in his hands and he can be the guy to control the pace and do everything for you. But it seems like he still needs that ball handler out there like LeBron or like someone else to take control and to be the guy where he can be the number two. And LeBron at this stage of his career obviously is trying to be the number two to AD being number one, but it still hasn't happened.
Yeah, I don't know where the Lakers. I was like watching them. I'm like, what are they doing? Like they should be better. They should not be worse than the Suns when it comes to like just their team in general because they have Devin. I mean, they have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, and Austin Reeves all returning from last year. So they have more continuity than the Suns. But for the Suns, I mean, in game one, it didn't look like it mattered. It looked like all they needed for continuity was Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So you would think that would be the same case for LeBron and AD. But I think that minutes restriction thing with LeBron is kind of like affecting him a little bit. But I mean, when he's on the court, he's dominant. So
Yeah, no,
it's
he's
just a
still
tough overall
LeBron, which
season.
is it's amazing. Year 21, what he still can do when he decides to take over is truly amazing. But the thing that really stood out to me in this game was the poor shooting on both sides. You look at the 3-point percentage for the Suns; it was 29%. For the Lakers, they shot 17% from three. Both teams shot right around the same percentage from the field at 42%. The Lakers are right at 42.9, so right under 43. And looking at that shooting, do you think that was just good defense, or was it a combination of good defense and just early season poor shooting?
Yeah, I don't like. I thought the Suns. A lot of people overlook their defense. Like
Yeah,
no one, like their defense is really good to hold the Lakers to 100 points tonight and the Warriors to 104 on Tuesday is really good start to the year. And
for sure.
Kevin Durant said it, like Devin Booker said it. This is a team that hangs their hat on defense. So you see it in these games, like them going out there playing really well defensively is going to really benefit them in the long run, especially early on like this. But at the same time, you see the Lakers and the Warriors both are still trying to figure out on offense. Same with the Suns for that matter. But you can see what they've been talking about, how if you have good defense, if you play really tough, force some turnovers, out rebound them like they have the past two games, um, it's going to create a lot of opportunities on offense. So I think that's the biggest thing that the Suns can take, the biggest positive in terms of the team that the Suns can take away from these first two games is their defense and how when they play good defense, that's benefits the team in general. So I think that's a huge plus for the Suns.
Oh, for sure. I agree there. Their defense has been very good. You talk about being able to limit Steph Curry, and we talked about it on the podcast on the last post game show, how they were able to limit Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Chris Paul, and have all those guys shooting below their normal averages. And in this game, you had the Lakers as a whole just shooting badly, even though Anthony Davis and LeBron James were able to shoot well. The rest of the team didn't. D'Lo scored pretty well, but he still shot below his normal efficiency rate. Austin Reeves didn't really do much tonight. Austin Reeves, he was, as I pull it up here, he didn't have a great night. He went 4-7 for 10 points. So not bad, but it's something that with him, the hype around him, usually expect him to do more. And this year, like coming into this year, a lot of hype was around Austin Reeves, signed a new contract. He was supposed to be like the third guy behind LeBron and AD. and he at times you kind of forgot he was out there as well. Only time I remember is when the commentators talked about the whole little all him talking about guarding Kevin Durant and what is he going to do in that matchup when he has nothing he can do with the size of Kevin Durant. But as far as offensively, he didn't do much. So I feel like the Suns defense, you see Frank Vogel's impact already on that side of the ball. Now offensively, is his system being put in correctly, or does it need Devin Booker to run correctly? Is the question.
Yes, it needs Devin Booker or Bradley Beal. Like
Yeah,
those two are going to be their main point guards, ball handlers, whatever you want to call it. They're going to be initiating a lot of the offense. So when you don't have them out there, especially for the first couple games, you don't guys don't know what to do because they've been practicing with them all off season.
yeah,
Um, and they expect them to be the ones that find them. They don't expect to take on these big scoring roles, except for maybe Eric Gordon. He's relishing the opportunity of taking more shots than he probably normally would. But um, yeah, I mean, when you don't have those two guys out there, like, what do you do? I think my personal favorite player for the Suns so far, who I think's been doing a really good job. He kind of had some bad moments during the second half. Is Josh Okogie. You can see here. I mean, him guarding Steph Curry and then LeBron James in back-to-back games is huge. And then those offensive rebounds once again. I
yeah.
mean, I think most of them came early on, but you just saw his willingness to crash the glass in the offensive end is just so beneficial to this team. Him leaving it all out on the court. Um, these numbers don't really. I don't know if you could say like they don't look like that good, but when you see him on the court and he's guarding LeBron James and still crashing the glass offensively, it's very beneficial to the team.
Oh, for sure. His impact goes beyond the numbers, right? When you talk about being able to guard LeBron James and guard a Steph Curry, and I'm guessing on Saturday he's going to be guarding Laurie Marketing, like he's always going to guard, the best guy on the other team. So when you talk about somebody who has that impact of being out there for those minutes, playing that hard, offensive rebounds, right? He had two big ones in the first quarter, kind of really got the Suns going. That's something that's kind of immeasurable when you talk about somebody who has that type of impact. Okogie, outside of the stars, has been the best player so far for the Suns this year because he's been very consistent and he's somebody who you can depend on both ends of the court now.
Yeah. I just love what I'm seeing from Okogie. I mean, I think you saw it there in little spurts. When the Suns got Kevin Durant last year, how good he can be alongside them. It just
Yeah.
didn't all come together in the playoffs. But I mean, you saw him tonight um, taking more threes. He was 2 of 4 from deep, so he was being more active shooting threes. I don't know if you want him settling for those jumpers with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal all healthy, but when he's attacking the paint like he was in game one against the Warriors, that's where he's going to have the biggest benefit offensively.
No, for sure. I agree with you 100%. He's going to be attacking the rim, backdoor cuts because people are going to lose him and lose track of him when all three of those guys are out there. So he's definitely going to have a big impact. And you want him taking maybe one, two, max three threes a game. If he's truly just, butt naked open, then you have to take those shots because you don't want people just disrespecting you out there and not believing in your jump shot. So you have to take them when you're that open. But outside of that, yeah, crash the boards, cut back door, just make life hectic for the defense by doing all the things that he's been doing.
Yeah, it's him, and I just thought Grayson Allen would have a very similar role, but I mean, we talked about Jordan Goodwin before. I mean, I think he's doing that as well, but I think Goodwin is trying to do too much, but that's kind of not his fault. I don't think, um, which I hope it's not like something he's going to try to come in the game and just be an impact player offensively. Like, that's not his game. He needs to do that on the defensive side of the ball. So I hope that's just them not having Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. So moving forward, like, he can just be out there and focus on his playmaking, rebounding, and defensive skills because they're not going to need him to be a 3-point shooter. So it's just when you have Goodwin out there and he's taking, what was it, 15 shots like they need him to do. They need him in other aspects of the game. So I think him. I think for me, I really love him, Okogie, Grayson Allen, and Drew Eubanks on the defensive side of the ball. I think those four guys have really propelled the Suns to having such a great defense in these first two games.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like those guys that you called out have been very good on the defensive end of this ball, and you definitely don't want Goodwin doing too much offensively. Like you said, tonight he was kind of forced into that role because someone outside of KD had to step up, somebody, and he was like, he looked around like, why not me? Like let me try to do something here to help him out. But like you said, most nights you won't have to do that. You want him, being like 2 for 4 from the field, but having 3 steals and being able to get a bunch of rebounds or maybe getting a sneak block here and there, those type of things. His impact is on the defense end with his energy, right? As soon as he comes into the game, he's clapping, he's hyped up, he's slapping high five with people. He's getting the energy going. That's what you want from him. You don't want him to be a primary scorer. But I did like the little floaters he was hitting. I like that little floater game he has. Look like he's been working on that part of his game. So if he's able to work on that, where he's able to do the pick and roll and do the little floaters every now and again, that's cool. But just limited to that.
Yeah, in the first half, his game was really blowing me away, and then kind of at the end of the second quarter there, he kind of started faltering off, and that kind of lasted the whole game. But like we said, like we just touched on multiple times, like he's not gonna have to do all that when Devin Booker, Bradley Beal are out there. So
For
it's
sure.
just like, do you think that the Suns can judge this game because those guys weren't out here, or is it like really tough, especially from an offensive aspect, to take away anything from this game because Devin Booker and Bradley Beal did not play?
Well, one thing you definitely learn is that once they're back, you want to have 2 of the 3 out there. I think that's something that you can take away from this game. Like at first, I was thinking, okay, they're always going to have 1 of the 3 out there, but I think they're going to try to have at least 2 of the 3 out there. Or if it's one, it's either Devin Booker or Bradley Beal that's out there, and not Kevin Durant by himself, because you want the one guy out there to be more of a playmaker, more of a point guard type. So if it's Devin Booker by himself, along with, let's say it's Booker, Allen, Okogie, and let's say you have at the 4 at this particular time just Yuta, if you're going small, Yuta and then Nurkic. Devin Booker could still make that work because he can run the pick and roll with Nurkic and have shooters on the outside and still can work. And with KD is still a good playmaker for his size and still a good passer, but he's not somebody who you want in that role for the entire game, or it can lead to an 8 turnover night.
Yeah, and I think another thing is they have Chemezi Metu and Keita Bates-Diop waiting right there, and I think they've shown that they need a bigger player out there.
Yeah.
I think, even when you get Bradley Beal and Devin Booker back, they don't bring anything in terms of size. So, is there a way to get minutes for one of those guys? We'll see. But just I think they need, especially against the Lakers, like Yuta he's a really good off ball defender, but even Frank Vogel was talked about he needs to be better on the ball. So you saw him do some good help defense tonight, but what were we talked about Yuta before, but I don't know if he's the answer there as the only forward off the bench, really, because Nasir Little is not that tall. Grayson Allen not that tall. Eric Gordon not that tall. So those are the main guys off the bench tonight. Yuta only played 14 minutes. Nasir Little was the only one who played less minutes than him. So do you need more size out there, or just KD, Yusuf, and Drew Eubanks pretty much?
Yeah, I would love to see Keita Bates-Diop get some minutes. I think that his size can definitely be beneficial for the Suns, especially like you said, against a team like the Lakers, who can go really big. Like at times they went out there with LeBron, AD, and Christian Wood, or they went LeBron, AD, and Jackson Hayes. So when you have a team that can do that, where AD goes to the 4 and they can bring in a 5 that's just as tall as AD, then you have some issues, especially if your 5 is in foul trouble. And that's where you really get into like, oh, are we going to go with KD and just go super small against this big team? But then you run into a situation like I mentioned earlier in that fourth quarter, where the Lakers took full advantage of a small Suns lineup and kind of extended their lead a little bit during that time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they needed to find a way to work another big into the rotation just because
Yeah,
of Yusuf's foul trouble. So, I mean, it's been two straight games, and him and then Eubanks. It's just like, does he need to take a step back from how hard he plays? I mean, he didn't. He did not have that good of a night tonight. See his stats here: two
yeah,
points, only 4 rebounds, but and he also had 3 fouls. But it didn't look like they trusted him down the stretch because they didn't want to put him in the game. So I mean, that kind of tells you something.
for sure.
I don't know. Did you see something that was off with his game tonight?
I wouldn't say off. I would just say that usually he's one of the most athletic guys on the court. And against this Lakers lineup, he wasn't one of the most athletic guys on the court when he was out there. When Anthony Davis is out there, when Jackson Hayes is out there, now his athletic advantage that he normally has wasn't there. And once that's gone, and then also the backdoor cuts where he was getting those passes in the preseason, those weren't there. And that's what really stood out in one of his preseason games. I believe he had 6 assists in one of those games where he was getting a lot of backdoor cuts because of the other threats out there. Teams were kind of over guarding or guarding too heavily on the 3-point shot, and that's opened up backdoor cuts for those players to have Eubanks pass it to him, and he didn't have those either. It was a one possession I remember. I want to say it was the second quarter where he kind of like was dribbling around a little bit, looking for that cutter, and nothing was there. And he just had to like pass it back out to KD. So I think that he just whatever he wanted to do just was not effective tonight. Now I'm not sure why he wasn't trusted in the fourth quarter when they took Nurkic out because of the foul trouble. That's something that maybe we can ask Frank Vogel about, but knowing Frank, he's going to have a smart answer for it that's not going to shine any negative light on Eubanks.
Yeah, I mean, Eubanks is a heck of a player. I mean, you saw it in game
Yeah.
one, even tonight, those 2 assists. Just, I didn't expect his playmaking ability on top of what he already brings to the table. So I think he fits that role of coming in behind Nurkic because they have that pre established chemistry from their time last year in Portland. So I think he just fits the Suns so perfectly because of Frank Vogel and Yusuf Nurkic. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they just need to find a way to get their bigs going. And I don't know if it'll be a problem when I mean you don't know if the Suns have any problems because they haven't had a full team. Is that their biggest
Yeah,
problem? Their health? Like, I
that
mean, I
definitely
think
could be.
right now it is. So that's I think yeah, just their health and their playmaking. Like, but
I feel
we
like
don't
their
know how
health,
they're playmaking.
yeah, I feel like their health has put a light on their lack of playmaking. And that's something that they may be able to address. Maybe we'll see a Saban Lee sighting throughout the year. Could because of that. So we'll just have to wait and see, or maybe they'll try to make another move. But they've made so many moves in the off season. I don't know if they'll have any more moves left to make during the season to try to add some playmaking, and who would be available for that if it comes down to it. But I feel like when Booker and Bill are healthy, then you have enough playmaking and you can have Goodwin as that backup guy, and then everything kind of falls into place. But again, Bill hasn't been healthy the last few years. We just gotta, cross our fingers and hope that everything is good with Booker on the MRI. I think we'll find that out tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see him on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I know Suns fans are excited for season opener. Also, the D backs being in the World Series, I think that kind of takes away from what Arizona sports fans are watching right now. Most people are
Yeah.
focused on the D backs, so though maybe that when they actually start watching the Suns, they'll have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal back, and everyone will forget these first two games. Um, but yeah, hopefully they'll be back soon. And I know I haven't watched the press conferences. I know that's probably what Frank Vogel said because he says it every time. Hopefully they'll be ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what he always says. So we'll see if that's actually the case. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what this team brings to the table without them. So I mean, it's good to get these guys. Maybe it's good to get them early minutes just because they don't have these two guys. So when these guys do play the minutes, they want to show out more. So maybe that's a positive for them. I don't know, but we'll see, we'll have to see when Devin Booker and Bradley Beal do come back.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just have to wait and see when they come back, and hopefully they're back soon so we can see this team fully healthy and then really take some assessments from what this team really can do fully healthy against the best in the West. But they got Utah coming up, which you don't want to sleep on any team, but maybe Utah's a team that they can beat without, Booker and Bill, or without one of those two if they're not playing. But again, you never can sleep on any team in the NBA. Every team has talent. So we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, and I know that you'll be doing a preview for that game, so we're looking forward to reading that and seeing what your analysis is going into that one. But we just have to wait and see, man. This is, I don't think we can say anything more about this game. Yeah, as far as what we saw, we just got to wait and see if the playmaking improves without Booker and Bill there, or if they truly are just doomed if those guys aren't playing.
Yeah, I mean, it just like, can you even judge their depth right now because it's so early in the season and
Mm.
they've had only the preseason to prepare for this, and that's that's really nothing when it comes to an actual NBA game. So we'll see if they come back. I just I don't know which one do you think you're more worried about, Beal or Booker?
Honestly, man, I would say both equally because with Bill, I've had some back issues, and back issues are no joke, man. It's somebody who, for somebody of his size, and that's the thing. I don't know if we think of NBA players as big, but like when you like stand next to him, you realize like how much bigger these guys are than like a normal big person. Like Bradley Bill is not somebody you think of as a big person, but for a normal human being, he's big. And when you're bigger, your back carries so much for you, and to have lower back issues really can just kind of just hamstring you as far as what you can do movement wise. With Book, we just have to wait and see with MRI. We got semi good news that he, was trying to play. So obviously he felt okay enough to try to run on it. But I think the Suns made the right move of being cautious to make sure there's no real damage there before he went out there and made something worse if there's anything there.
Yeah, and I just think both of them recognize it's early in the year. For me personally, though, I would say Bradley Beal because it's lower back tightness, and it's been since Game 3 of the preseason, which was a few weeks ago.
That's
So
true.
it's been a while, and it's like, is he gonna wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day and just his back's not gonna be feeling okay, so he's not gonna go like 40 games in the year? Is that still going to be something that we're talking about? Um, I don't know. I mean, maybe they find a way to make it better, but maybe this rest will really get him going. But it's just confusing because he practices sometimes fully. I mean, he practiced fully on Monday, I think. So they limit him and then they throw him out there and see how he does. So I think once they get a routine down for him in his rehab, if you want to call it that, then maybe his back will get better. But we'll see. I think Booker, younger, you don't know the extent of his injury, but it seems since he wanted to play tonight that he's in a better spot to me than Beal.
Yeah, I definitely can see why you can say that for sure, especially with Bill's injury history. And being somebody who has hit that 30-year-old mark, you definitely have days where you can wake up on the wrong side and that back just goes to hurting. So that's a real thing right there, waking up on the wrong side of the bed and your back just hurting for what you think is no reason. So that's a real thing. So hopefully they got Bill right. They got him a sleep number bed, where he's good and comfortable. So he's falling on the right side of the bed in the morning and good to go where that back isn't too tight. Hopefully we see him soon.
Yeah. So I mean, is there anything else you want to add from this game that like I've said the whole time, this game is just weird. I expected the Suns to win, but that
Yeah.
fourth quarter really showed what I thought of them going into this game. I thought that was going to happen the whole game. So I mean, that's just my main thing I saw was I expected them to come out with a lack of playmaking and have to rely on Kevin Durant only, which wasn't the case for most of the game because their defense was carrying them. But then when it got in that fourth quarter, you really saw the struggle there. So I think that's the biggest thing that I saw tonight.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Lack of playmaking when you don't have Booker and Bill out there. and maybe, just maybe, the depth isn't what we thought it was. But we have to wait a few more games before we make that decision. It's a long season, so I'm not going to go, jump out the window yet and say the Suns don't have depth. But the depth is looking a little shaky right now, especially with the play of Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen so far this year.
Yeah, and I think you could just chalk it up to the beginning of the year. Hopefully, I mean, those two guys have a lot of experience, and when it comes down to it, I mean, like Landry Shamet did not have that experience, for example. Like Cameron Payne only had that experience with the Suns. So when you look back on the guys, I think they have more experience now. I mean, guys like Jordan Goodwin are going to have to show that they're built for the playoffs. But I mean, you have these established guys that have shown that they belong in the NBA and have really good experience in the past, so that they can eventually help the Suns, even if it might not be 2 games in the season.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that. So I definitely think we've covered this game. Up, down, and sideways. We got it all covered. So make sure that you follow us on social media. You see our handles right there. 2 good follows right there on all social medias. But I know yours is a little different on other platforms. So please tell people where they can follow you on social media, Brennan.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Honestly, don't know all my ads, but I mean, you can just search. You can just search my name and you'll find me. So, but yeah, this is. I mean, I'm only just use X. So if you or
Okay.
Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, just follow me on X if you want more Suns content. I mean, me and Damian work really hard to cover the Suns and all this drama already with injuries. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we work hard to give you guys the best content possible. So, yeah, I mean, and one more thing is shout out to Kevin Durant for passing Hakeem Olajuwon tonight on the
Yeah.
all-time scoring list, even though it came out a bad moment in the game where the Suns were just clawing back into it and it didn't really matter. So there was really no time to celebrate it. That was a huge achievement for him, and I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more from him this season. In terms of that, I think he has a good chance of getting in the top 10 all-time scoring. So hopefully he needs, like, I think now probably less than 500 points to get there. I did an article on him at the beginning before the season started. I think it was like 550 he needed before the season started. So he should be right around that 500 mark to get into the top 10 scoring. So that'll be huge for Suns fans to see from him. But yeah, so
Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge accomplishment. You think about Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest to ever do it. Somebody who was, 2-time Finals MVP. Somebody who, when you think about his career, you look at that first Finals team. Like he has one of the few championships that you could point to and be like, yo, he really did it by himself. Like his second leading scorer that year was a dude named Otis Thorpe. Might not even heard of him before. But that was his second leading scorer the first year that the Houston Rockets won a championship in '94. So passing Hakeem Olajuwon on the scoring list is a big deal. So definitely congrats to Kevin Durant on that. Too bad it came in a loss, but big ups to Kevin Durant on that. And I can't wait to see how far he gets up on the scoring list this year.
yeah, and the fact that he needed 37 points and he got 39 tonight, I didn't think he would. When I saw that before the game that he needed 37 points, I didn't think he would get it, but he did, and it didn't come in a win. So,
Yeah, yeah,
history sometimes is more important than wins or losses in the regular season. So, especially in
yeah.
that category.
No, for sure, for sure. And for you guys out there, make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Deal WDA. Make sure you follow Burn City Sports. So Burn City Sports has you covered, not just for the Suns, the Cardinals, the World Series appearing Diamondbacks, Phoenix Rising, Phoenix Mercury, everything Arizona State. We have you covered for all things Phoenix sports. So if you're a Phoenix sports fan and you're not following Burn City Sports, are you really a Phoenix sports fan? Got to ask yourself that question, all right? So, and until next time, man, peace.